Hello explorers and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to do a brief summary of what happened today at the Polymer Summit that I attended, and there were a lot of interesting things that happened, but some of them are a bit smaller than previous years and might not change up things too much. But one big thing is that the Polymer 3.0 is out, and this brings with it some small changes in how we actually distribute our packages. So they are embracing NPM with Yarn. So the first Polymer components are now out on NPM, the first alpha components, so you can download everything that you need to run your Polymer project from NPM. There can be some weird things around that, but it should pretty much work for you. They also did the move to actually use JS modules, and that is really interesting, that you actually go fully JavaScript, which means that your template is in a JavaScript string, or at least that was the example that showed today. They will have some more in-depth tomorrow about that subject, so that's going to be really interesting. But for now, everything is in JavaScript, JS modules, which means that it can be bundled with other frameworks, and they have a compatibility site that shows you how well they are integrating with other frameworks, which seems really interesting. YouTube were there talking about how large they are and what scale they actually are working under. And the YouTube mobile app is already running Polymer. YouTube Gaming is running Polymer, and they have a YouTube version with built on Polymer that is under youtube.com/new that you can try out today. It's still under beta, not really ready for production, but they are really close to actually moving over this huge site to Polymer, which is very exciting. Next up, we have Wysiwyg, which is a little weird. It's not a Wysiwyg editor. It's a what you see is what you deserve editor, which is really weird. You can drag things into this editor and actually create somewhat good code from a Polymer standpoint. So you have your different components composed and assembled in a good way, but there is still a lot of things that you need to know. You need to be a developer to actually use this tool, to do the right data binding and so on. But it could be an interesting tool to quickly prototype something and show someone how you think you want to build a product. So I still think that is a really interesting tool. Another thing that I touched on was performance. With this break to Polymer 3, they actually have a migrating tool, and a lot of the work that goes into the different components and looking at them a second time is also to remove or to fix them so they are extendable. So in the future there might be, for instance, paper simple input that is just the main functionality of an input tag without the extra functionality, and then you can extend it to get the full functionality. So in those cases that you need a more slimmed version of the input field, you can use the simple version, and when you need a more fully fledged one, you can use the standard paper input. So that is a really interesting thing that they're going for too, to slim down some elements. And when they went and did this performance fix from all of the elements and looked at ways to get the code down, they actually went from 100 kilobytes of code down to 6 kilobytes, which is very exciting. It's not the full library, but it's a large chunk of the Polymer code is much smaller, and they are even closer to the current web standards. They have removed the code for HTML imports because that polyfill is no longer needed, because the web browser developers didn't really want to adhere to that standard. So now they are going with JS modules instead and ES modules instead, and remove the support for HTML import, which is a little bit of a controversy. People are a little bit perturbed that you can't use templating anymore, that all the templating is in JavaScript, but they ensure us that it shouldn't be that bad, and it's good to keep to the standard, and maybe in the future the tooling around it will enable you to have your styling and things in other files and then add them to your JavaScript later on, so it might make your work simpler. And the last point that they were talking about was this interesting node server that delivered the right version of your Polymer application to the right web browser. So for instance, when it comes to EE11, it needs ES5 modules and it will deliver that. Some of the web browsers need a bundled version to work well, and some of them can actually handle server push, so it will get the unbundled version with pushed assets. So that's what I have taken from this day today. It has been very exciting, and I will do videos that go more into depth on each of these topics. I hope that you found this video interesting. Subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and you are interested about these topics, and I really hope to see you in the next video.